Think about the start of any new project. There's a plan, a timeline, a sense of order. Everything seems perfectly under control. Then, a few months down the line, that feeling is gone. The project is late, things are chaotic, and no one quite knows why. It turns out the clean path on paper rarely survives its first encounter with the real world. So what's really going on here?
Well, every project starts with this idea of clarity. On paper, it all looks so logical, a straight line from A to B. It feels like if everyone just follows the steps, success is guaranteed.
But of course, reality is rarely that simple. The actual work is often messy and unpredictable. And this isn't just a string of bad luck. The reasons for this chaos are often built right into the process, right from the very start. See, a formal plan is supposed to follow these very clear stages. You have the initiation, the planning, execution, monitoring, and then closing. This whole structure gives us this powerful feeling, this expectation that everything is going to be orderly and predictable.
And the planning process itself usually happens in a very controlled environment. It's done in meeting rooms, on whiteboards, kind of disconnected from the complex reality of where the work actually gets done.
So, because of this, most plans are built on one huge assumption, that the future is predictable. The plan works as if every task will just neatly follow the one before it, exactly like it's drawn out on the project chart. But then, reality hits. The plan assumes things like stable requirements and zero interruptions. But the real world is full of shifting priorities from leadership or suddenly discovering you depend on another team that's already swamped. These are the kinds of external pressures that immediately start pulling the plan apart.
Now, these outside factors, they're a big deal, for sure, but they're actually only part of the story. There are much deeper pressures inside the organization itself that shape the plan long before anyone even starts working.
Just think about it. Inside any company, money and people are limited. There's only so much to go around. So right from the start, different projects are all competing with each other for those same resources, just to get a green light.
So in that kind of competitive environment, how does a project actually get approved? Well, its chances often come down to its perceived value, how good it looks to the people making the decisions, not necessarily how realistic it is.
And what makes a project seem more valuable? It's pretty straightforward. Plans that promise faster results for less money. A project that looks quick and cheap is always going to be more attractive. It promises a bigger return on a smaller investment, so it's an easier yes for approval. This whole situation creates a really strong incentive. To make a project look good enough to get approved, there's this tendency to underestimate the time it will take, underestimate the cost, and, you guessed it, overestimate the benefits. The plan becomes a sales pitch.
And what's the outcome of all this? You get a plan with absolutely no wiggle room. It's a perfect, best-case scenario timeline where every single task is scheduled back-to-back with zero margin for error. Now, when a plan has no buffer built in, even one tiny, everyday delay can't be absorbed. That one small hiccup creates a domino effect. It pushes every other task back, and suddenly the real finish line is way, way past the one you originally planned for.
So what happens when the project starts falling behind? A common reaction is to throw more people at the problem. But counterintuitively, this can actually make things worse. All the time it takes to get new people up to speed, plus the extra communication overhead, it can slow the team down even more.
So this brings up a really important question. If this pattern is so common, if these fragile plans almost always lead to delays, why does it keep happening over and over again?
Well, the answer is right there in the system itself. The process for getting a project approved doesn't reward the most realistic plan. It rewards the most optimistic one. A plan that includes extra time and budget for unexpected problems might seem inefficient or padded, and in a competitive approval process, that makes it less likely to be chosen.
So what this really means is that the system is often set up to optimize for getting projects started, not necessarily for getting them finished successfully. And that creates this fundamental trade-off. You can have a plan that looks great on paper and gets approved easily, or you can have a plan that's actually resilient enough to handle the real world.